shut it down in the club, getting fucked up. If you drunk, fuck them, put your fists up.
It's going down tonight. Didn't want you home last night.
Time to shut it down in the club.
Welcome to the Monkman, Marl Kalone. I'm your host, the Monkman. This is episode 17 of season 1. And listen, gentlemen, I realize it has been a bit since I've had a new episode. I think it's been about a week today, actually. The only thing I can tell you is that I thought I was getting better last weekend when I put up a couple new shows. Turns out I wasn't. I've been sick as fuck the last week plus, so not that you care very much about that, but that is why I haven't been here. But let's get into today's topic, because I actually have 3 different shows we're going to try to put up today to do a little bit of catch up for the shows I've missed, and because there is a shit ton of news going around. So today's topic, this one's fresh off of the interweb. I found this last night, and what it is very interesting to me. Young men are on the decline in a major fashion when it comes to having sex. Now, this is a study that's been done for the last 10 years, specifically is what they're looking at, from 2008 to 2018, the data. So let's break it down for you. Young men, and now these are men under 30, are driving a major decline in sex in the nation. They went from 10% of the population of young men in 2008 not having sex to 2018 now being 28% of the population. Beyond that, and I find that statistic very, very interesting and very telling, and we'll get into that a little more, but beyond that, young men today in 2018 are also reporting that 27% under 30 years old are virgins. This is also a huge increase. Okay. Now, we know that the lack of sex is driven by younger people. That it's always been that way. Younger people just typically have more sex than older people. That is just the way of humankind. That's not all that surprising. But what is surprising is that we have gone from 10% of the male population to nearly a third of the male population. Let me repeat that for you. A third of the male population reports not having sex on a regular basis under 30 years old today. Now, why would this be important to us, and what do we think would be causing this? Well, to me, it's very, very important in telling of a multitude of things. Firstly, we know that the feminist movement has kicked into overdrive the last 10 years. I don't think that's a question with anybody. And the lunacy, the craziness of the things they do, the craziness of the things that they support, and the craziness of their attacks against men have just absolutely risen to epidemic proportions, and proportions we've never seen in the history of mankind. Now, you couple that with the fact of the Me Too movement, all of the false allegations against men, as we know how many of them have come out to be false. I mean, it's hard to even quantify the number at this point. Beyond that, the false allegations, there is no type of punishment received to the women that proceed with these false allegations against men. They're never punished for it. So my question is, young men are very active in the internet. They're very active in the social aspect of our society today, which is completely based around the interweb and based around cell phones, based around all of that social activity. And they're very involved in that. I would say the numbers are probably even with women, maybe even higher than women. Now, why is there such a cutoff between the social aspect of all of this and then the fact of men in such a huge number, a third, are now stepping away from sex? Well, it comes back to what I've said. Young men are educating themselves on the dangers of dating women today, of getting involved in marriage, of getting involved with women having kids and being on the hook for that child extortion money for at least the next 18 to 18 and a half years, and in some cases beyond that. Young men are becoming very aware, hyper aware of the fact that these women, if for some reason after you have sex with them, they decide they don't like you or you've done something to them that they don't approve of, they will proceed with false allegations against you and try to do everything they can to ruin you. Now, there's no repercussions to come back on these women when the false allegations are proven to be false. This is a major, major factor in the reason that we have 28% of young men not having sex today. The other number, with such a huge increase in men under 30 reporting being virgins, the same thing. They're watching their parents, their fathers. They're watching their uncles. They're watching their older friends. They are watching their stepfathers. Whatever it is, they are watching. They are grasping the concept that women can completely devastate and fuck over your entire life. These young men are getting it. Now, we understand the reasons why there is such an increase. Now, one of the other stats in there is very telling because it shows that overall women, as far as their numbers of having sex, have basically stayed even the last 10 years. And yet men have increased, it's triple what it was. So if women are having about the same amount of sex and men have tripled the amount of them not having sex, that's very interesting. It means that women are sleeping around probably with a larger percentage of the same men that are in that pool or that circle that do have sex, okay? So there was some comments, as you will see, posted up on this video right now. I'll have them posted from the women, a particular woman here, and I haven't blurred out her name because frankly, she's a goddamn lunatic for what she's posted. And she basically says that the lack of sex is because women have been assaulted the majority of their lives. So hence the lack of sex, and hence the decline in men having sex. But that doesn't make any sense. It does not correlate with the data. The data says that women are having about the same amount of sex. It is men who have tripled their numbers and stepped away from it. So if it was because of the decline of men having sex, if that was the decline was because of the so-called quote-unquote sexual assaults of women all their lives, then you would see the number of women going down having sex. But it doesn't. It stays about even, and in fact it actually increases a little bit. Now, I threw some comments back at this lunatic, and I'm waiting for responses to come in on the Twitter page. But I find this data incredibly interesting, and I also find it as we're headed in the right direction, gentlemen. We are headed in the right direction. Point blank. We are headed in the right direction. If we could get those numbers up to 50%, with the people already, with the lack of reproduction, not having enough people to sustain our population, and therefore increase it, and increase federal tax dollars and Social Security, at that point, the government has to address it. They have to address the causes, and they have to find a way to try to correct it, because at that point, it affects their bottom line for tax revenue. We won't have enough people building up on the government's pyramid scheme for Social Security to continue to fund it, and a lot of other things will continue to not get funded. Okay? And they won't be able to throw falsehood answers at us, because the men like us will already be educated on the falsehoods of the system and the corruption by the system, by the women, by the child support mafia. All of these will be extreme factors, and once we are educated, we're not coming back to the male plantation. Gentlemen, this news is some of the best news to verify and quantify what we already knew was happening. Men are stepping off the plantation in fucking droves. To go from 10% to 28%, and therefore also a percentage of men nearly as high as that being virgins. All of this under 30, the most sexually active demographic of our society. To see all of this, this absolutely substantiates MGTOW, red-pilled men, and our efforts to get away from the male plantation that society has created and endorsed, the government has created and endorsed, and the feminazis and the lunatics on the left have endorsed. I'm going to sign off this video at this time, but I'm telling you, I'm absolutely thrilled to death to see this information. It verifies everything that we are already aware of, and now we have substantiation from 10-year plus studies. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Super excited about this, and watch for a couple more videos. Gonna get them up as fast as I can today, and yeah, we'll see you gentlemen on the next Monkman show. As always, stay the fuck red-pilled.
Where could it be? Nobody rep you to the way I do. I've been thrown down, nigga, one since day one. Son coming out, what you gonna bring?